Melly, and whoever's phone number ends with 3544. Shalom Aleichem to both of you. Melly, just make some kind of a gesture that indicates that you're there physically. Cool. Okay, I want to start this class with this. Today is Yud Gimel Tammuz. It's the 13th day in the month of Tammuz. Tavshin Pei. 93 years ago today, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, was told officially that he's free to go home. Right? Yesterday, Shabbos, which then was a Tuesday, Yud Beis Tammuz, the Rebbe was told unofficially that a cable came from Moscow indicating that he was his exile had been suspended and he was free to go, but that he had to come in the next day to register officially. Then he got official word that he was able to go back home. In conjunction with Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz, the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote and publicized a Maimer, which is considered important. The Rebbe spoke about it many times. And the Maimer is called Asara Sheyoshvim V'Oiskim B'Torah. That's the name of the Maimer. Asara Sheyoshvim V'Oiskim B'Torah. What does the Maimer talk about? What does this Maimer, Asara Sheyoshvim V'Oiskim B'Torah, talk about? It talks about the significance of davening with a minyan. And the chiddush of the Frierdiker Rebbe in the Maimer is that just like there is a big mile in davening with a minyan, there is also a very big mile of learning with a minyan. It's a big chiddush. What does the Rebbe say? The Rebbe says that when you daven with a minyan, it doesn't halach, it doesn't gemara, it doesn't shulchan aruch. When you daven with a minyan, Hashem cannot ignore your prayer. He has to answer you. The pasuk says, "Hein," it is true. Kael, God Almighty, kabel layim, something which is mighty or awesome, He can't ignore. HaKadosh Baruch Hu einim emayis b'tfilas harabim. When Yidden daven with a minyan, He doesn't ignore their prayer. So Frierdiker Rebbe says, what's the Kabbalah of this? What's the mysticism? Why when Yidden daven with a minyan, can't Hashem ignore their prayer? And He answers. When you daven alone, you're a person. When 10 Jews get together in a room, the Eibishter is there. Right? I saw that, like it says, the Shechina Shrei B'neim. 10 Yidden are in a room, the Shechina rests. It says in Tanya, it's like Kedesh Chav Beis, that if you had a room, listen to this, if you had a room with 10 Jews who are all Rashoyim Gimurim, perfect Roshas, which means not one of them has any Jewish guilt, which is quite incredible. You have a room with 10 perfect Roshas, not one of them has any Jewish guilt. So the Alter Rebbe says, Shamaiti Meimoida, I heard from my teachers, that if a Malach, an angel of God, would enter into this room where these 10 perfect Rashayim were, he'd be filled with an overwhelming fear from the sense of the presence of the Shekhinah. When 10 Yidden get together, it doesn't matter what they're doing, the Eibishter is the 11th man. Hashem joins them. So the Alter Rebbe says, this idea that when 10 Yidden get together, the Eibishter joins, is the Madrega of the Yud Gimel Mides Harachimim, the 13 attributes of mercy. Or in other words, it's a Madrega which is higher than Atzilus, higher than the Eibishter's names, if you will, higher than the Esesphiras. So whenever 10 Yidden are in a room, the Eibishter is the 11th man. And it's kind of hard for the Eibishter to ignore a prayer when he's a part of the minyan himself, right? If 10 Yidden are davening, so the Eibishter is the 11th man. If they're all davening for the same thing, let's say, or even if they're davening for different things, the Eibishter davens with them. It's kind of hard for the Eibishter to say no when he's a member of the tefillah of the minyan. If you're davening alone, so then the Eibishter judges you. Do you deserve it? Do you not deserve it? When you're davening b'tzibur, the Shechina rests, and again, in Kabbalistic language, this is called the Gilui of Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, the 13 attributes of mercy. The Eibishter davens with you, and then he has to give you what you want. So the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Maimarim of Yud Beis Tammuz is Machadash HaChiddush. That just like there's Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, there's 13 attributes of mercy, which have to do with davening. There's Yud Gimel Midas Shatoyron Nidreshes Behem, which we say every morning before Haidu. There's 13 measures by which the Torah is nidrash, is darshan, is taught. And the Rebbe says the Yud Gimel Midas Shatoyron Nidreshes Behem is the same thing as the Yud Gimel Midas Harachim. That if you learn alone, you're trying to figure out a Gemara or a Tosfos or a Rambam, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's harder. But if you learn with a minyan, so the Eibishter becomes the 11th man, the Eibishter is the 11th person in the minyan, and he brings with him the koyach of the Yud Gimel Mides, Sha'Torah and the Dreshes Behem, and that Torah is on a higher level, and it has an incredibly effective result. Okay, so this Yud Gimel Mides Harachamim, which is associated with davening with a minyan, and there's Yud Gimel Mides Sha'Torah and the Dreshes Behem, which is associated with Limud HaTorah. When the Frierdiker Rebbe came out of jail, and he made an official Yom Tiv the following year, Tafresh Peches, 1928, of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, and he asked Chassidim to Fabreng, and he himself made apparently a Sudas Haida'a, and etc., 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 etc. The Frierdiker made a request to people. They should learn together in a group of 10, minimum. Because when you learn together in a group of 10, it has a special koyach. Now, our Rebbe, Zolgazunza, our Rebbe, spoke many times that there's a very, very big chesed in learning in a group. Because when you learn in a group, you take away from each other the possibility for iyun. If you want to learn something very deeply, you want to really be alone. You don't even want to chavrusa. You certainly don't want to have 10. So the Rebbe said a little bit you should learn with 10, and otherwise you should learn in a way that allows you to delve deeply. But you shouldn't completely disregard the inyan of learning with 10, because when you learn with 10, the Eibush is the 11th man, and it helps your learning, and it helps all kinds of other goodies. Okay? This is the hello, this is the shalom aleichem to the shir. That the first anniversary, the first yahrzeit, the Frierdiker Rebbe was released from prison on Tuesday and Wednesday, Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, in 1927. The following year, 1928, not only was the Frierdiker Rebbe not in prison, not only the Frierdiker Rebbe was not in exile, the Frierdiker Rebbe was no longer in Russia. He was now living in Latvia. Riga, Latvia, which was a Western country. It was a democratic country. And the Frierdiker Rebbe was no longer afraid for his life, although he was very worried about the Jews he had left behind in Russia. But he had, so to speak, survived. So he made a Yom Tiv, he made a Fabrengen, he made a Sudas Seidah, he thanked Hashem for the Nes. And he wrote and disseminated this Maimer Chasidis, Asora Sheish Meiskim B'Teira. He asked that all Hasidim should introduce to their learning the concept of learning with a minyan because of the miles of a minyan. Okay? So far so good, yes? Then there's another point. The Gemara says, the Pasuk says, this Thursday is Shivas B'Tammuz. This Thursday, this coming Thursday is Shivas B'Tammuz. Shivas B'Tammuz, we're going to read in the Torah by Shachris, and we're going to read in the Torah by Mincha twice. What's going to be the difference? By Shachris, when we're reading the Torah, we're going to read 3 aliyahs, and that's it. By Mincha, we're going to read 3 aliyahs, and then there's going to be a maftir. The maftir of the 4 fasts of Tzem Gedalia, and Asara B'Teves, and Shivasa B'Tammuz, and Tisha B'Av, and I guess also Tainus Esther, 5 fasts, is Dirsh Hashem B'Yimatzeh. It starts with the pasuk Dirsh Hashem B'Yimatzeh K'ra'u B'Yosei Karev. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya. So the Gemara says Dirsh Hashem. You should search for Hashem B'Yimatzeh when you could find him. K'ra'u, call him B'Yosei Karev when he is near. So the Gemara says, when is Hashem easy to find? When is Hashem near? And for the Gemara, Elu Asara Yamim Sheben Yesh Hashanah Liyam Kippurim. It goes in Aseret Yemei Tshuva. In the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Hashem is close. How so? So the Gemara answers, Kan B'Yochad, Kan B'Tzibur. The Gemara says, during the 10 days of Tshuva, Hashem is so close to a Yid that every individual is like a minyan. This idea that we said before, it is a huge mile in davening with a minyan, because whenever you daven with a minyan, the Eibishter is the 11th man, and it's a gili of Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, which is so advantageous, which gives so many big miles. During the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, every individual, every Jew in the Aseret Yemei Tshuva is so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's like a minyan. Hashem can't ignore him. And of course, the Rebbe would go on to say, if one Jew is like 10 in Aseret Yemei Tshuva, just imagine what it must be that if in Aseret Yemei Tshuva, you daven with a minyan. In other words, the time that Hashem is closer to us than the whole year. The whole year Hashem is a little bit farther from us. During Aseret Yemei Tshuva, the Eibush is closer to us. There's a lot of different ways of describing this. In Chassidus, they call it Kiruv hamoed al hanitzutz. That means the source with a capital S, the source which goes on Hashem, is Kiruv hamoed al hanitzutz. The source is close to the spark. The source with a capital S, that means Hashem is closer to us. What does this mean practically? Practically, you may say it's not so practical, but nevertheless, what does it mean practically? Practically, it means, going back to the form that I gave you last week, a whole year, every day, our relationship with the Eibishter begins with our brain. I'm a person, you're a person. You're intelligent, I'm intelligent. To some degree, yes? Some of us are more intelligent, others of us are less intelligent. But nevertheless, okay, we were human beings. When we talk to the Eibishter every day of the year, we talk to Hashem with our brain, with our heart, with our senses. Yeah? When I need something, why do I need something? Because my brain told me I need it. My heart told me I lack it, or I desire it, or it'll give me pleasure. And I ask for it, all very, very reasonable. The concept of davening with a minyan, the concept of the 13 attributes of mercy, Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, or to say it differently, the concept that one is like 10, one Jew counts as a minyan, is that we're relating to Hashem directly from the highest levels of the neshama, from the Yechida. During Aseret Yemei Tshuva, every Jew does not have a reasonable relationship with Hashem, he has a neshama relationship with Hashem. During Aseret Yemei Tshuva, it says in Chassidus, a Jew could be walking in the street, he never went to shul, he doesn't belong to a congregation, he didn't even buy tickets, he has no membership to a temple, and he'll suddenly have a hit of tshuva, start crying from tshuva. Why? Because during these 10 days, we say every Jew is here. We're at a higher level. It's a special time. It's a special time. Okay? Or I'll give it to you in colloquial. I'll tell it to you in language which may be more comfortable for you, yeah? You know the expression, the king in the field, yeah? Elul is the king in the field. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is peasants in the palace. During Elul, Hashem lowers himself, goes away from his palace, it comes down to the field, to us. During the Yom Neirayim, he invites us into his palace, and the peasants are with the king in the palace. When peasants are in a palace, they're very close to the king. Now, maybe they don't deserve to be there. Maybe they don't know how to act. But they're nevertheless with the king in the palace. That's the concept of Aseret Yemei Tshuva. It's a special time. Okay? Now, according to Chassidus, this special time lasts from Rosh Hashanah, not only till Yom Kippur, it lasts from Rosh Hashanah until the end of Sukkot. Basically, the whole Tishrei, all Jews are in a higher level. If all year long, to have a special connection to Hashem, you have to connect to 9 other Jews, you need a minyan. During this time of year, every individual Jew is like a whole minyan. Anytime any Jew cries out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu during Tishrei, whether it's Rosh Hashanah, or the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, or it's Yom Kippur, or it's Sukkot, or it's Simchas Torah, or it's Chalamed Sukkot, or even the days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, every individual Jew has the power, has the authority of a minyan. When we cry out to Hashem during this time of year, we're all on a higher level. We're on a level of, if you will, on a level of Yechida. Our relationship with Hashem is not brain-based. It's not my brain that connects me to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's soul-based. My neshama connects me to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the entire period from Rosh Hashanah till the end of Simchas Torah is special. It's special. Okay? One more thing, and then I'll let you talk to me back. I'll let you ask me your questions. When we say that from Rosh Hashanah until Simchas Torah, every individual Jew is on a level of Yechida. Every individual Jew is the equivalent of a whole minyan. Every individual Jew, the Eibishter is with him because there's a Gilui V'Gimel Midas Harachamim. The source is close to the spark, and all the other fancy ways of saying what I just said, we say it the following way. We say, during the days of Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's called Smoilei Tachas L'Reishi. Hashem is embracing us with his left hand. Hashem is giving us his left hand. During Sukkot, we say, V'yamin etchabkein, Hashem embraces us with his right hand. In other words, during the Yom Neirayim, during the 10 days of Tshuva, every Jew is very close to Hashem, but he's close to an awesome God. During Sukkot, we say every Jew is very close to Hashem, but he's very close to a loving God. Okay? So even though the entire period from Rosh Hashanah till the end of Simchas Torah, we're all peasants in the palace in different ways. I don't want to go into all the details. In other words, we're all closer to Hashem, and therefore we relate to Him on a level, if you will, which is above our brain, which goes directly to the neshama. But Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we experience Hashem's awe. Sukkot and Simchas Torah, we experience Hashem's love. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we experience Hashem's left hand. Sukkot and Simchas Torah, we experience Hashem's right hand. Okay, now I have just spoken for about 10 minutes, maybe more, maybe 15. How long am I talking for? I'm talking for about 13 minutes. Okay? I'm going to stop and breathe and give you a chance to say something.
What's the difference between the hands?
Between the left hand and the right hand? Okay, let's use this metaphor, okay? You never met the Rebbe. You never met the Rebbe, unfortunately. But you probably can fantasize about being in his presence. Being in the presence of the Rebbe is being in the presence of a king. And it's incredible. It really humbles you. It really reduces you to size. You're like freaked out. You're so close to a king. Can you relate to that? Melly, can you relate?
I don't know.
Can you imagine it? Can you visualize that? Being very close to the Rebbe, physically in the Rebbe's proximity. You can't?
Not really.
Okay, so humor me. Make believe you could, okay? If you were next to the Rebbe smiled at you. Or if you were next to the Rebbe and the Rebbe was in a very serious mood. Both of those expressions would move you. But they'd move you in very different ways. The expression of feeling the Rebbe is smiling at you would make you feel very close to him. The expression of the Rebbe being very earnest would also make you feel very close to him, but it wouldn't make you close to him in a way that uplifted you. It would make you close to him in a way that impressed upon you that something is very serious. And not just it's serious because the Rebbe thinks it's serious, but that there's a serious responsibility on you. If you're in the presence of any great person, I mean, there's no other example but the Rebbe, but in the presence of any great person, when that great person shows you kindness, love, kiruv, you react to that in a very positive way, in a very happy, in a very loved way. If that person shows you an earnestness, he's not pushing you away. He's simply showing you that something very serious is going on, and you have to respond to that emotion. So you are awed, you feel yirad by the yira of the Melech. Does that make sense?
What does this have to do with the different hands?
Because the left hand of Hashem represents yira, and the right hand of Hashem represents ahava. During the Aseret Mitzvah, Hashem is very revealed to us. But what he's showing us is a very serious face. So he includes us in that earnestness. In other words, it's not pushing us away. But the reaction that comes from us is a reaction of earnestness. Sukkot, Hashem is also very close to us. But what he's showing us is joy. So the reaction that comes out of us is also a joyous reaction. It's also a great intimacy with him. But we're responding to his mood, so to speak. The midah that he shows us, we reciprocate, we repeat. So when he's in an awesome state, we react with an awe of our own. And when he was in an incredibly overflowing, joyous state, we respond with the joy of our own. And in the lashon of the pasuk, it's called Hashem's left hand and Hashem's right hand.
I can't visualize this.
You're
like
stumped.
day-to-day life, everyone has their own emotions, so it doesn't make sense to me that people have the same emotion as God.
Okay, first of all, not talking about day-to-day life. We're talking about Tishrei. Right? Day-to-day life is, you're right. Tishrei is a special time. In other words, in day-to-day life, Hashem is not so revealed to us that he imposes his emotions on our emotions. We're more separate from him. So there's much more work and there's much more individualization. Tishrei Hashem is so close to us that we, so to speak, feel His emotion and we respond to it. So, are you asking a question that you don't understand the mashal, or you're asking the question that you didn't feel this last Sukkot?
I don't feel this last thing.
Last Sukkot. So fine. So fine. So I accept that, and you're not the only one. In other words, it's not like you don't understand what I'm saying. You're just simply saying it's not true. It's just not real. You know, I went to Shoresh Yom Kippur, and it was all boring to me. I didn't experience Yiddish Elikim. I'm not going to debate that. We're going to talk about the idea. Now, how does it fit for you? We'll say for another time. In other words, how do you experience this in your life? We can talk about it at a different time. But the theory you can understand. The theory you can understand.
Theory? Can I understand the theory? I don't understand in real life. So the theory, I can hear the theory. I don't understand the theory. I get what you're saying, but it's not relevant to me.
You have no muscle for it. In your entire life, have you ever met what you would consider a great person?
Everyone has their attributes, so I wouldn't say there was anyone perfect of a great person.
But
what?
Have you met people who, in your mind, or in your imagination, in your assessment, they may not be perfect, but to you they're a great person?
In ways, yeah.
Would you agree that in their presence they move you? You feel different than when you're not in their presence.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what the Maimon is trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. I haven't gotten to the Maimon yet. That's the conversation that we're having. The idea that when you are so close to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, to the Eibishter, He moves you. A whole year you're not that close. A whole year you're farther away. A whole year, in your own words, the day-to-day living of a person, you don't feel intimate with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I don't see how this is a thing during these days.
I get that. I get that. In other words, you're saying you didn't experience this last Rosh Hashanah, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. I'm talking about the idea. In other words, how this is going to relate to your life practically, we're going to have to save that for Elul. Mitzvah Hashem, we'll get together in Elul, and we'll have a fabrengen about the king in the field and the Yamim Ne'royim, and we'll talk about how we can prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah, that when Rosh Hashanah comes, we should have this experience. Okay, so that part of the question I'm leaving alone. In other words, your argument that I never experienced, I agree with. But I'm putting it on the shelf. I'm simply talking about the idea. Torah says, the Gemara says it, and Kabbalah makes a big, big deal out of it, that this time of year we're especially close to Him. And we're especially close to Him means as a revelation of 13 attributes of mercy. The way it plays out technically is that every individual Jew is like a whole minyan. Which means just like when you have a whole minyan, the Eibush is the 11th man, and during Yom Ne'royim, the Eibush is the second man. You're davening, the Eibush davens with you. The Gila of Yigim Midas Harachmim. The Chiddush of Chassidus is that this is not only Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's also Sukkot. But Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, that experience of closeness to Hashem is in the form of awe, and in Sukkot, that experience of closeness is in the form of joy. Can you understand that?
I hear it, but I didn't find it relevant.
You don't find it personally relevant. Fine. Okay, so let's continue. The Rebbe wants to argue that the same as what happens when you say Shemoneh Esrei. Okay? Last week, we gave 2 classes probably where we talked about Shofar and Kriyas Shema. Right? We said that just like once a year you blow Shofar, you make Hashem into a king, and we had rather involved conversations. About making the Eibishter into a king. And then we said the Shema of every day is the parallel of blowing shofar. That was the discussion we had last week. Now we're going to talk about Shemoneh Esrei. We're on page Kuf Chaf. I'm going to guesstimate it's 15 lines down from the top of the page. The line that begins with the word bifrat. You have the book.
What book?
Derech Mitzvah, the book we've been reading the whole time.
No, I have not.
Okay, so I'm going to read it and you're going to listen, okay? It's 15 lines into page Kuf Chaf. You're not the only person here. There's a 3544 hiding behind a rectangular gray box with a round, lighter shade of gray globe with the shape of an old telephone in the middle. So I'm talking to you and to 3544 plus whoever else is watching us on Facebook and on YouTube and on my website. I'm talking to more than one person. Okay, you're the only one who's responding to me, but there are people here. Okay, so I'm going to read inside 15 lines from the top of the page. If Shema is Shofar, Shemini Esrei, the 18 brachot of Shemini Esrei would be the equivalent of Aseret Yemei Tshuva. And Sukkot, here's how. If when you said Shema, it's crying out to Hashem, which is the equivalent of blowing shofar. In other words, just like shofar once a year makes Hashem a king over the world for the entire year. Shema in the morning, so to speak, makes Hashem a king for that individual day. So ve'achakach, and then comes Shemini Esrei, just like when you blow shofar once a year. After the blowing of shofar of once a year, during the course of the year, the king and the subject have many interactions, have a lot of meetings. The same is true each day. That after you say Shema, there are many individual meetings, and the beginning of those meetings is Tishrei. In other words, the beginning of those meetings is Shemini Esrei. So let's put it to you in mathematical terms, okay? If Shema is Shofar, Shemini Esrei is Tishrei, and the rest of the day would be Cheshvan, Kislev, Tev, Shvat, Adar, Nis, Nir, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul. You follow? In other words, Shema is like the sounding of the shofar, making Hashem into a melech. Shemini Esrei would be the time that we're closer to Hashem and Hashem is closer to us. Tishrei, the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. And when we finish davening, that will be the equivalent of the regular life that we live after Tishrei until the following Tishrei. We're going to read it inside. Then Shemini Esrei comes. It affects and it brings forward from what we did when we blew shofar and made him a king. From what we did when we said Shema and made him a king for the day. His chalkus v'amshachas pratius. A variety of different individual energies which are brought down, livnes partzufezun, to build up the faces of the attributes of Atzilus. They should be fit for a unity and for a zivig. And I'm not explaining the Kabbalah. I don't want to explain the Kabbalah. I already explained it earlier. I'm just going to move on. And he says like this. The primary building of this relationship takes place. First of all, B'birchas Avis. The first bracha of Shemini Esrei is called Avis, fathers. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yankov. Then the second bracha of Shemini Esrei is Ata Giber. Hashem is a Giber. And the Rebbe adds the words, Bechinas Smoilei Tachas Hareish. The idea that Hashem's left hand is under our head. And then you have the third bracha of Shemini Esrei Ata Kodesh. And the third bracha of Shemini Esrei Ata Kodesh, the Rebbe calls Bechinas V'yamini Techapkeina, the idea that the Eibish's right hand embraces us. What the Rebbe wants to tell us is that when you start Shemini Esrei, you just finish blowing shofar, but it's still Tishrei. You finish blowing shofar, now comes the Yom Neroyim. The second bracha of Shemini Esrei is like Aseret Yemei Tshuva. The third bracha of Shemini Esrei is like Sukkot. The second bracha of Shemini Esrei is called Gevura, because Hashem is very close to us, but He's very close to us in a midah that elicits from us awe, Gevura, strength. The third bracha of Shemini Esrei is called Kedusha. This is the equivalent of Sukkot. Hashem shows us a joyous countenance, and we respond to that joy. In other words, the Rebbe is paralleling the brachas of Shemini Esrei to Tishrei. The second bracha would be Aseret Yemei Tshuva. The third bracha would be Sukkot. The second bracha of Shemini Esrei, the mood would be awe. The third bracha of Shemini Esrei, the mood would be joy. And we're going to read on. It's very similar to Kamei Shemirei Shashana, just like on Rosh Hashanah. That on Rosh Hashanah you blow shofar. Blowing the shofar is making Hashem a king, creating an interest between Hashem and His world, like Kriyas Shema. But then, what happens after you blow shofar? Maschil binyan hanukva bepratius. There's a beginning of a process, which is called binyan hanukva, which I'm ignoring at the moment. Where Hashem embraces us with His left hand. Hashem embracing us with His left hand means Hashem is very revealed to us. Hashem is very close to us. We feel Him, we sense Him. But the feeling and the sense of closeness we have to Hashem that comes from His left hand doesn't make us feel happy and holy. It makes us feel awed and responsible. Which is why the Aseres Yemei Tshuva are days of judgment, and the second bracha of Shemini Esrei is a bracha of judgment. Then begins Hashem embracing with His right hand, which is mi bechinas Yom Kippurim. It starts after Yom Kippur or on Yom Kippur, ad seif Yemei Achag till the end of Sukkot, ki yadua, as it is known. So the Rebbe says, just like you understand the parallel between saying Shema in the morning and blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, understand the parallel between the second bracha of Shemini Esrei, which is at the Gibber, and Aseres Yemei Tshuva. Hashem is closer to us, but the mood is Gevura. And the third bracha of Shemini Esrei, at the Kadesh and Sukkot. Hashem is closer to us, but the mood is joy. Now, there's a lot of loose ends, Melly, and what I'll probably do is, I'll come back tomorrow morning and I'll actually address your question. I'm going to try. You can't tell a person, you think you're not feeling, but you're really feeling. I think that's very simplistic. In other words, you're asking a real question. You're telling me that in Yom Ne'Rayim I'm very close to Hashem. It doesn't happen for me. I can't argue with your facts. So tomorrow I'll probably come back and fabreng about this a little bit more. But today we're going to talk the way the Maimeh presents it. If every day is a microcosm of a whole year, so the Shema is the shofar, the second bracha of Shemini Esrei is Gevura, is like the 10 days of Tshuva, and the third bracha of Shemini Esrei is like Sukkot and Simchas Torah. It's a time of joy. Ella, it is only Shebereish Hashanah, v'Yom Kippurim, v'Sukkos. In the time of Tishrei, when you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkos actually, who are binyan b'klolos, this is when the structure of the relationship between Yidden and Hashem happens on a level of klal for the entire year. And then later on, b'chol yom, every day, it's a miniature building for that individual day. In other words, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkos establishes the relationship between Hashem and His world for an entire year, and Krishma and the second bracha of Shemini Esrei and the third bracha of Shemini Esrei establish the relationship between Hashem and Yidden for a day. It's a much smaller idea. And just like when you go through the whole of Tishrei, right? And we have three ideas about Tishrei: blowing shofar, which is the equivalent of Krishma; experiencing Hashem's awe, which is the equivalent of the second bracha of Shemini Esrei; experiencing Hashem's holiness and joy, which is the equivalent of Sukkot and Simchas Torah. So just like we say about the whole of Tishrei, that the end of Tishrei is that the real intimacy, the real unity between Hashem and the Jewish people happens. Which day of Tishrei is when this occurs? The answer is Shmini Atzeres. V'az, and on Shmini Atzeres, who Amshach Hazatipa made in Seif Mamish. It brings down the seed from the Ein Seif Mamish. Bebechin is Makei Neshamas Yisrael into the source of all Jewish souls. Hanikna Nukva Dezah, to give birth to new neshamas, like it says in the pasuk Atzeres Tielachem, that Shmini Atzeres is the. I mentioned this to you last week. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. The conception of Jewish souls for the new year. The same is true every single day. Ayadei binyan zun, by building up whatever zun means. Bechai berchon that slays in the 18 brachas of Shemini Esrei. Nimshech achakach hatipa, the seed is brought down. Which brach of Shemini Esrei represents Shmini Atzeres? The answer is Sim Shalom, the last brach of Shemini Esrei, the brach about peace. For who Amshacha, because in the brach of Sim Shalom we bring down Hapnimius Me'er Ein Seif, the very Pnimius of Ein Seif. Shenimshech Klaluseha Bekriyas Shema, and Krishma comes down only in general. Rak Shenimshech Me'ila Le'ila, Ad Shenimshech Bezun, it goes through different steps of during Shemini Esrei. Ulam lo yahaya efshe lehismashech bezun. It couldn't come down to these different steps. Im lo ya'adesh yivnu zun tchila. You have to first build up zun. Al the amshacha said in safe. Behem bebechinas hamaychin. Yachakach nas amshacha pnimius besim shalom. It comes on bepnimius into sim shalom. Okay, so without going on all the things there's a lot of questions on this paragraph. What we just read. There's a lot of things we don't understand what we just read. But the math would be this. Shofar is Krishma. The Yomim Neirayim, the 10 days of Tshuva, is the second Bracha Shemini Esrei. The day Yemei HaSimcha, the days of joy, is the third Bracha Shemini Esrei. Shmini Atzeres is Sim Shalom, which leaves so many questions. What happened to all the brachas in between? What happened to the first Bracha Shemini Esrei? And of course, your most important question of all. I don't know what you're talking about. We get all of that, okay? But this is the math. This is the math. That just like in the year, there's a process. In a day, there's a process. Just like in a year, there's a time when we establish a relationship with the Eibishter, which is supposed to be special, that's supposed to sustain us for the duration. The same is true in every day. There's a time of the day, which is a time of davening, when we have this special intimacy with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is supposed to sustain us for the duration. And we have 4 details, 4 aspects. Are there more? There are many, many more. But our Maimah gives us 4. The equivalent of blowing shofar, the equivalent of Yemei, the days of awe, the equivalent of the days of joy, and the day of Shmini Atzeres. Okay, I'm afraid to ask you if you understand, because you're going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And you'll be right. I get that. But intellectually, academically, you can understand these points, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. Tomorrow morning, I will come back and I will try to have a conversation with you to address your primary question about how do we feel it. And then we'll revisit this. Okay, we'll talk more about this mitzvah tomorrow. Okay, I really thank you very much for coming. You're doing me a much bigger favor than I'm doing you, I promise. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Good morning.